Hello, everybody. My name is Sydney Morris. I am E4E's co-founder and co-CEO and a former second and third grade teacher from the Bronx. I am really excited to kick off a brief series that we are doing in the month of March to commemorate Women's History Month. And I'm thrilled to be talking with some diverse educators across the E4E membership across the country. We are having important and reflective conversations about women's leadership in the classroom and beyond, and about how our intersectional identities shape how we teach and how we lead. And today I am really thrilled to be in conversation with a phenomenal LAUSD teacher, Bootsie Holt. Bootsie is a math teacher advisor in LAUSD Local District West. She is a national board certified teacher. She is an LAUSD and LA County Teacher of the Year, and she is an elected member of UTLA, Los Angeles' Teachers Union's House of Representatives. So I'm thrilled. Welcome, Bootsie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So I want to kick off. We know that traditionally celebration of women's history has been pretty narrowly cast to focus on white women specifically. And I'd love to hear from you. What would a more inclusive celebration look like to you? And how do you think we can achieve this in schools?
Yeah, so I think, obviously including ethnic diversity would be a boon to women's history, to history in general. But I also think one thing that that women's history is missing is really a celebration of like the common woman. And so many of our stories are wrapped up in moms and teachers and nurses and cafeteria workers and just women whose lives are worth celebrating every day, whether or not we're celebrating the best this or the top that or the first person to do such and such. All of those people are great stories to hear and look up to. But I think that as a society, we're not doing enough yet to celebrate like the common woman and the rest of us, the most of us, right? So we're really good at celebrating the 1%, whether we're talking about women's history or any kind of history. But the 99% of us, I think, also should be uplifted. And once in a while, you see efforts like Time Magazine, instead of doing like a person of the year, we'll do like a group of the year. There were like the whistleblowers or like those are the kinds of celebrations that I think as a society, we could really use to uplift women and women's voices and the women who are just doing their best every day.
Yeah, that really resonates, I think, especially in the face of the year that we have had. How do we look for and celebrate our common humanity and the things that bind us and that have collectively carried us forward during this really, really challenging time? When you think about your own intersecting identities and the identities that feel most salient to you, how do those inform how you teach, how you advocate for students, and how they shape the relationships that you build with your students?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, for me, I feel like I spent a lot of my sort of younger years facing like internalized messages about where I fit, who I should be, what sort of careers I was suited for, just all of those messages that we get, what size I should be, who I should hang out with, all those messages that we are all getting. And, it's only just been recently with so many movements and so much more like sort of open thinking and listening to so many amazing folks who are just super diverse, where I'm really starting to own just the me of me, and it's taken me a lot of years. My hope is that I can help my students start earlier owning the them of them, right? And again, I guess it sort of ties to that first question, right? Just about celebrating like individuality and humanity and just even like some of our regularness, which is worth celebrating if that's such a thing, you know what I mean? In addition to our unique identities, um, learning to celebrate our commonalities, I think is really the growth that I've been most proud of in my own identity over the years.
Yeah. So right now we are in a moment where there are big decisions being made from, our new Secretary of Education to state leaders to local school board members who are making choices about what happens in our schools and classrooms in the near term and in the long term. And so from your perspective, what do you wish that those education decision makers would do to better honor and infuse the diverse voices of women educators into our education system and into education policymaking?
Mhm. Yeah, well, I keep hearing the numbers, and there's so much money that's going to be flowing into education, um, in the next year to help sort of right some of the wrongs that have happened during COVID, and to help us make the transition back, and to maintain the innovations that we've gained, and at the same time maybe sort of mitigate some of the inequities, right? So there's a bunch of stuff coming. I think one area that's not talked about enough is the parent education piece.
Mhm.
And I would love to see policymakers throw some energy behind really giving our parents a chance to catch up with everything that's changed. Now, this is a long time coming. This isn't just COVID related, but there have been some amazing sort of uh, changes in thought and ideology that have been happening in the classroom over the last number of years. Classrooms don't look at all like what they used to. When the parents of our kids were in school, classrooms were a very different place, right? And so we are, taking their children into our care and educating in a much different way. But parents are getting left out of this equation. So I would love to see um, some funds behind like parent release time from their work so that they can, or some incentives for parent education around how our systems have changed and the kinds of things that we now do with students, with instruction and pedagogy, also with the pieces around restorative justice and identity, and so many things that we are now, and social emotional learning that we are now doing in classrooms. And it's like so exciting because the kids are like into it. They get it. The kids are like, yeah, we're forming a new world. And you see these young people who are like super well informed and super go-getters and like ready to make changes, but we're kind of leaving the parents behind. And I think that that's an area where we really need to focus some more.
Yeah, that really resonates. I mean, I think we've long known about the importance of the school to home connection. And I think that has been thrust upon us in a way we didn't anticipate now that school is literally happening in the home on a daily basis. And yet,
And I'm
there's
sorry.
so much, no, there's so much opportunity to innovate, right? And to think about how do we learn from this moment and think about the intersection of the resources that are going to be available and the new opportunities that could lead to engage parents differently. And so, yeah, are there other specific thoughts you have on what that could or should look like?
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, we're always in danger of educating the same parents that we've always educated and leaving behind the parents that we have left behind, right? And so that's also got to be a really intentional push that when we if we, I'm saying when as if I, make the rules, but if we really make meaningful changes to parent education so that parents are educated right alongside children, that educating children is educating society, right? It's not just educating what the next generation. We want children to be sort of like the bearers of our whole world being educated, right? More or better educated. And so we just need to make sure again that we are paying just hyper focused attention to inclusion in those efforts, and understanding that folks who have fewer resources need more support to be more involved, and need more invitations and more incentives even to be able to make the time and the space and find what it takes to come in and be part of our education system.
Are there any resources that you are using in your classroom or school related to this conversation that you'd like to share with others?
So related to the giant women's history conversation, I am absolutely loving the website for the Women's History Museum in DC. There is so much great stuff in there, and somebody sent me a link just last week. I keep like digging in and finding like uh, videos and lessons and articles that I'm like sharing with people. So in terms of women's history, I think that is an untapped resource. I never have been there in person, but it's like my goal to get there now. Um, and they have so many amazing digital resources that I am just loving right now.
Well, that sounds like a great resource, and we will definitely make sure to share that out alongside this conversation. Bootsie, thank you so much for sharing such rich perspectives and for all that you do for students in LA. And to everybody watching, we will keep sharing more perspectives from amazing educators in the coming days and invite you to join in on the conversation on social media. Thanks and be well.